Faithful viewers of this broadcast know that from time to time we ask poets to drop by and share their work with us. This time our guest is the versatile Philip Appleman, whose creativity spans a long life filled with verse, fiction, philosophy, science, religion, and above all, moments of everyday experience captured like the glint of the sun sparkling through a crystal glass. Just take a look at a sample of his legacy. Darwin, Apes and Angels, Darwin's Ark, In the 12th Year of the War, Open Doorways, and this, my favorite, Summer, Love, and Surf, about the joys and wonders of loving and living. His latest book of poems is Perfidious Proverbs. A fellow poet said that to watch Philip Appleman sling words is to be richly regaled. I quite agree. Welcome, Philip.
Wonderful to be here, Bill.
I have long thought of poetry as music to be heard best in the voice of the composer. So let's go right to some of your poems.
Good. I love it.
Here's one of my favorites, and I think it's one of your favorites too, Eve. Tell me about that poem.
20 years ago, I published a book called Let There Be Light. It was a series of satires on various biblical stories, and Eve, being one of the first, came out at the head of the list. And shall I read it?
Please.
Eve is kind of reflecting on the snake at first. Clever he was, so slick he could weave words into sunshine. When he murmured another refrain of that shimmering promise, "You shall be as gods," something with wings whispered back in my heart, and I crunched the apple. A taste so good I just had to share it with Adam. And all of a sudden, we were naked. Oh yes, we were nude before, but now, grabbing for fig leaves, we knew that we knew too much, just as the slippery serpent said. So we crouched all day under the rhododendrons, trembling at something bleak and windswept in our bellies that soon we'd learn to call by its right name, fear. God was furious with the snake and hacked off his legs on the spot. And for us, it was thorns and thistles, sweat of the brow, dust to dust returning. In that sizzling skyful of spite whirled the whole black storm of the future, the flint knife in Abel's heart, the incest that swelled us into a tribe, a nation, and brought us all, like driven lambs, straight to his flood. I blamed it on human nature even then, when there were only two humans around. And if human nature was a mistake, whose mistake was it? I didn't ask to be cursed with curiosity. I only wanted the apple, and of course that promise, to be like gods. But then, maybe we are like gods. Maybe we're all exactly like gods. And maybe that's our really original sin.
The original sin, hubris, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
You've said that's one of your favorites. What makes it a favorite?
Well, I like the personal tone of Eve, who doesn't get to say anything in the Bible to speak of, and to turn her into a kind of down-to-earth reinterpreter of that kind of tickles me, that's all.
She finally gets to tell her own story.
Right.
Did you ever wonder about the silence in that story of the first woman, as it says?
Yeah. No woman I know would tolerate it.
Exactly. Now, here's one that we like especially. It's one of the 5 poems of Pagans that you did. And this is one of the short ones. Would you read that one? And by the way, tell us what mammon is for those who haven't been reading the Bible lately.
Well, mammon is the love of money and greed, and he's the god of wealth. I call it my Bernie Madoff poem.
Read on.
O Mammon, thou who art daily dissed by everyone, yet boast more true disciples than all other gods together. Thou whose eerie sheen gleameth from corporate headquarters and Vatican treasury alike, Thou whose glittering eye impales us in the X-ray vision of plastic surgeons, the golden leer of televangelists, the star-spangled gloat of politicos. O Mammon, come down to us in the form of treasuries, annuities, and high-grade bonds. Yield unto us those Benedict Arnold funds, those quicksand convertible securities, even the wet Judas kiss of futures contracts. For unto the least of these, thy supplicants, art thou welcome in all thy many forms. But when thou comest to say we're finally in the gentry, use the service entry.
Do you ever go back and say, well, that's one of my first children? I mean, I remember, I'd forgotten that kid, but now I realize that it is my point.
Yeah, I love reading the early poems as much as the late ones. I brought along a poem, which it would be an interruption sort of the thrust here, but
that's what life is about, a series of constant interruptions, Philip. Go ahead.
The first thing you see in this book is a dedication. It's for Margie, my wife. We're looking forward to our 62nd anniversary this summer. And the dedication says, "Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight." But because Margie is home and has had a stroke and is ill, I would like to read a poem for her, if you don't mind.
Please do.
It's from a book called Summer, Love, and Surf, which came out in 1968, and it's the most beautiful book. It was so beautifully designed that it won the design contest for that year. And it was written when we were living out in Malibu in one of those houses that built on stilts, and it's so far on the beach that at high tide the ocean is gurgling under your bedroom, and we loved it there. And this is a young love poem. And in recent years, I've written poems for our 50th anniversary and our 60th anniversary, which are very old love poems. But this is sort of back at the beginning. Summer, Love, and Surf. Morning was hesitating when you swam at me through wave on wave of sheet and blanket, glowing like some dimly sighted flora at the bottom of the sea. Around your filmy hair, light was seeping in with water sounds, low growling in the distance like dragons chained. After our small storm dwindled, we faced the rage outside, swells humping up and charging in to curl and pause and dash themselves to soapsuds on the stork-legged pilings of our house. The roar was hoarser now. The wrecks of kelp were heaping food for flies, our long-nosed sandbirds staying close to dry land. Farther out, pelicans arched their wings in quick surprise, and gulls screamed urgently. The call was there. We fought the breakers out and rode their fury back, triumphant and again triumphant, till at last, ears stuffed with brine and heads a-spin like aging boxers battered, we flopped face down on hot sand, smelling sun and salt and steaming skin. Your eyes were suddenly all sleep and love, there in the sun, with seabirds calling. The sky goes metal at the end, water gray and hostile lashing out between the day and night. Plastic swans are threatened. Deck chairs, yellow towels, barbecues stand naked to the peril as if it were winter come by stealth. Still later, in the lee of dark and warmth, we probe the ancient fear. At night, the sea is safer under glass, the crude wild thing half tamed to shed its past. Galleons sent to 50 fathoms, mountains hacked to rubble, cities stripped. At night, the sea, barbaric bellows stifled, sprawls outside the window, framed like a dark, unruly landscape. Behind us is a darker kind of dark. I watch your eyes for signals. The music makes a pause for prophecy. Tomorrow, offshore breezes and warmth to each other's warmth. We do not listen.
That was how long ago?
1968.
You had been married?
We had been married 18 years at that point.